then to my right, immediately to my right, we have Tony Lewis Jr., who is actually a community activist and author of the book Slug. So y'all clap your hands for Tony Lewis Jr. So we're going to ask them questions. We're going to have them talk about who they are and tell us more about their lives. But I want you all, as you listen, if you have a question, if something, if you're inspired to want to know something, write it down, jot it down. We will have a question segment for you all at the end, so that you can get your questions out as well. Okay, panelists, y'all ready? My first question for y'all, right? So we want to get some geographical information. You know, the city is important, right? If you say, I'm from a certain part of the city, first thing somebody's going to ask you, like, what high school did you graduate from? So what I would love to get from y'all is kind of like your path to where you are now, but include like what neighborhood you grew up in, what high school you graduated from, and then kind of like a brief path to how you got to where you are today.
Okay. Hey everybody. I grew up, born and raised here in Ward 4. I grew up as an uptown girl. I grew up on 2nd and Kennedy Street. I went to Rudolph Deal and I graduated from school without walls. And after that I went to undergraduate at St. John's University in Queens, New York. Many people may know I went to school with J. Cole. That's the only cool person from St. John's. That's it. But we did. To go to school at Howard University School of Law. And did work. I started my career as an attorney working in Philadelphia. And then when we were electing our first attorney general and our first black attorney general, Paul Racine, he was getting elected. He called and said, look, you're doing that work up in Philly. Come home and do that work down here in D.C. And I answered that call and came home, and I've been home ever since.
Thank you. Whoever wants to go to we'll start with you this.
Good morning, everybody. Silas Grant, grew up in Northeast DC, off of 6th and Franklin in the Edgewood neighborhood. Went to Brookland when it was an elementary school, then Paul Junior High School uptown. And don't boo me out, but I went to Coolidge, came out here in 1997. Don't boo me again, I went to Hampton as well, so yeah. I'm not a favorite in the room. But I came back home to DC and I got involved in local government and politics relatively early in my 20s. Former ANC commissioner, former chair of the Ward 5 Democrats. Worked in the council for a long time, and now I have my own consulting company doing training and workforce development. And my goal today, and really beyond today, is to help young leaders get in position and learn how to develop themselves to be even better leaders.
Thank you, sir.
Peace, y'all. I'm Angel. I grew up uptown as well. Family from 1st, 5th, and Kennedy. Went to Whittier, Paul, Banneker, and Howard twice, which just means I'm like real broke. And so I started my journey in a lot of places. I worked in youth violence intervention for a few different organizations in DC, starting in Berry Farms with this organization called Fly, then Peaceaholics, and then I started teaching at Oak Hill Youth Jail, teaching math and science. Went on to move through education as an assistant principal at Silas High School. 8.5 years ago, I stood for lease sign in a space uptown on Tacoma Park and decided on a whim that I was going to open a spice shop. I had no idea what I was doing, no desire to have a brick and mortar space, but I moved forward on that kind of thing in me that was telling me that this was a good idea, and I opened that spice shop. I've since built a strip mall around that spice shop in Northeast DC. And I've been a full-time spice girl traveling the world for spices for almost 9 years now.
Good morning, y'all. What's up? I'm Tony Lewis. I grew up on Hanover Place. Hanover is a little small street off the intersection of New York and North Capitol. Y'all know what Delaware? Alright, so my street is like a half a block from Dunbar. First, that's my neighborhood, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't go to Dunbar, I went to Gonzaga. I went to Catholic school my entire elementary and high school experience. Then I graduated from UBC. When I was about 20, I got a job doing, it makes money for UBC. They got like UBC. Yeah, if anybody need like, you go to UBC, you can do something with me. When I was like 20 though, they started a program that really akin to like what you see today with violence and elections, but it was for people that was it was like a peer-to-peer approach. I got a job in what they call a junior role leader. And the irony of it was the first community that I worked in was up here at Upshur and Taylor Street. When A.K. Taylor had a rec right here in Parkview and Emory. Those were the 4 recs that I went to. That's why I bumped into my purpose. And then eventually I would go down KP as a full-time role leader, and that work changed my life. And I wanted to start doing reentry, helping men and women when they return from incarceration. I come from a family and a community where everybody goes to jail. My father went to prison when I was 9 years old. He didn't come home until I was 43. And a lot of advocacy and service to my community, addressing gun violence in our city, addressing reentry, addressing gentrification. My sister Angel, she left that out, and she's a part-time activist too. And amongst a lot of other things, not only have an impact here in our city, but around the country, amplifying the voices of the pain and problems that we go through. And also I wrote a memoir, Slug, Voice Like an Asian Mass Incarceration, which has allowed me to go around all of the DC public schools and around the country and various universities to lecture and talk about the impacts of mass incarceration on our community. And what I'm most proud of is that my work has actually led me to meet all these people that you see up here on the stage. You know what I'm saying? We become over the decades at this point that a lot of us have known each other, working together to become like family. But the work and the service is what bonded us and tied us. And really every day we get up to move the needle for you. And we're aging, we're getting older, and I ain't putting no responsibility on you, but it's your time. I'm aging. We ain't putting no responsibility on you, but we here so that you can know that you stand on our shoulders and we will go much further than we ever did. So happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Angel smiles. She says, "Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself." I want to acknowledge a few things that you all said. One, I want to speak to the representation of HBCUs. Since this is the second day of Black History Month for us, so I want to celebrate that. I also want to celebrate the fact that all of you, regardless of the different endeavors, are all connected in some way to community work, whether it's Warfolk Councilwoman, Workforce Development with Silas, the track that Angel followed, and especially working in Oak Hill in that time with the schools and the assistant principal, and Tony doing his community work and the work that he does in his book. I want to know, especially being in DC natives, what is the driving motivation behind the work you do, and was there a defining moment for you that you remember that just like pushed you in this direction?
Yeah. I think the defining moment for me was when I came home. I had done a year in LA as a senior corps member working in schools, and I came home to start law school. And I was starting law school in that August, and my mom, when I got home, said, the rent had gone up 3 times since I had been away. And she was a U.S. Postal worker, works in Ward 4 at the Gregorio post office, and the salary she had just wasn't enough for us to stay in the house that we grew up in. And that just all hit like a ton of bricks. This is the house that I've been in since I was 3 years old. We had tried to buy the house multiple times, but mortgage discrimination is a very real part of DC. And here we are, about to lose our family home. And so my mom was like, look, you got to start law school. Like, we proud of you. I'm gonna let you. You're gonna go stay with one of my family member, so I ended up staying with my family members in the attic and starting law school. She's like, we can figure it out. And I said, okay. So it just really, that's the moment I think it really hit me that, you know, the city really was becoming unaffordable in a way that was just egregious. And my mom could afford to stay here all these years. And in a 3-year period, every year they were just pushing the rent up higher to push us out, and it was really happening. And that just really motivated me. I was like, I'm gonna finish law school, I'm gonna fight for my family. We ended up finding another house in our neighborhood. And about a year and a half, right after I became an attorney, my mom called and said, hey, you know, the owner of this house is trying to sell. And I was like, okay. But this time I knew that we had rights. So I was like, oh, boom, we have total rights, which is called tenant opportunity to purchase our rights. And we get the first right of refusal. And so I exercised our total rights and was able to keep our family in our home. And I was so excited, like this time I'm able to keep our family. About 6 months later, total rights came up at the Council on Emergency Legislation. And they were going to get rid of total rights for single-family renters, sort of the policy I just used to save my family. So I went down there like, look, y'all can't do this. There's so many black families who deserve the first right. We've been paying off these people's mortgages for years. And it's not like many of us didn't want to buy. We just were faced with mortgage discrimination, which ended up coming out was real in DC. They really were discriminating in us being able to buy a house. And financial literacy was never taught, so a lot of people really just didn't know how to do that in their hands. And so I went down there, I begged. 6 months later, the council passed legislation to get rid of total rights for single families, and about 6,200 more DC residents were displaced as a result. And that's when I realized, like, we talk about policy, and people are like, I don't do politics, and I don't do that. And I said, look, if you don't do politics, politics is going to do you. And they were doing us, they were in our community, and so that was the fire I knew I was going to start fighting against policies that were specifically going to displace more black residents in the District of Columbia. And that's what inspired me to run for council. I'm like, I don't even want to go there no more begging people to do something. I'm going to just get on there and do something myself. And really from that disposition is how I ended up where I am. And fighting every day for DC residents to be able to have a place in this city's prosperity. So, yeah.
Councilwoman Lewis George, I want to thank you for that. 2 things I want to hear right what you said. You said if you don't do politics, politics is going to do you. But then you followed up and said, you know what, we ain't got to wait for somebody to do it, we can do it ourselves. And I like that. This side, what we got?
For me, when I went away to college, went to Hampton in 1997, and one of my best friends also went with me, and he became a party promoter. And we grew up on the same block, and so he would throw parties, and all my homies from around the way would come down for the parties. And I started noticing when they would come down, they didn't want to go home. And that outlet for them was a difference maker. And then when I got back home, I saw the conditions that my friends were in. And like the councilwoman said, I wanted to get involved in policy to be able to help provide the experience that I had for more people. And so me looking at my friends from my neighborhood and the conditions that they were under, that caused me to be able to be motivated to go get involved in the policy work as well.
Thank you, Silas. I love that because I have some connections to the 757 in Hampton. I love that space. But you talk about, there we go. But I like what you talk about, my ability to see something different and to invite our friends down to see something different and then come home and still see where they're at. It's like, yo, I gotta do something, right? There's this tie that I see here. Before we move to either Angel or Tommy, I just want to welcome to the stage Greg Harrison, who is also one of the owners of the museum. And he also runs a program called Future Moguls. Greg, really quickly, just to get you tapped in, can you give us some insight to kind of your story, your path, how you got to where you are, and then also include like what neighborhood did you grow up in, what high school did you graduate from, etc. Give us the geographic.
Hey, thank you for the intro. Part of my tardiness, I'm recently making a lot of business changes, and I'm still trying to pivot into a different role. And so for me, an introduction thing. My name is Gregorio. I'm a third generation Washingtonian. I'm from Southeast DC. My neighborhood, I grew up on MLK. 25 years of my life before going to the University of Virginia State down in Petersburg, Virginia, the great Virginia State. And then I left Virginia State and I went to grad school at NYU for a short period of time where I did not finish because I was interning at a company called the Czech Group, which was owned by one of the biggest developers here, Douglas Development, his brother, Lawrence Jamal. You guys have probably seen Douglas Development Corp on a lot of buildings downtown, especially in Chinatown. His brother ran a fashion house called Czech Group at Ice Brands in New York City. And so I interned there for a while right out of college. I was a four-year letterman in college. I played basketball, was offered to go play overseas, but my heart was in entertainment. And so I went to New York. I actually interned after college. So I graduated and I did grad school and I interned while I was in grad school, didn't finish grad school, worked at this place, and I ended up getting offered a six-figure job with that same company. Now, mind you, I took the road less traveled by. I don't know a 22-year-old college graduate that will be interning, after you graduate, because they sell you this dream that if you go to college, you graduate after 4 years, you should be able to get the job you want, but that's false. Actually, my friends that didn't go to college, and I hope I'm not being, my friends that didn't go to college had better jobs and had put together a better foundation than I did because they had experience. And so I thought my degree would get me through doors, and it was actually the experience on top of the degree. All right? But I ended up working for the company Apple Bombs. I know y'all probably never heard of them because that's so long ago. But it was an artist that y'all probably never heard about now called Nelly. They probably y'all look at him like a grandfather now. But it was his brand, and it was a brand where they put these apples embroidered on the back of, your bottom. And they were called Apple Bombs. The company was like a $100 million company. I was a part of the marketing team. I was an assistant marketing manager. But before I did that, I actually ran the mailroom. I worked reception. I got coffee for everybody, and I did product placement. Product placement is, you guys watch a lot of music videos. I saw, you see people like Lil Baby with clothes on. Lil Baby probably had a stylist. And so there's a person that's the middleman between the stylist and the brands most times, and that was a person like me. It's not a very celebrated occupation. People don't even really know about it, but it's called product placement director. So how many of you ever watched like a James Bond movie or any movie recently? Anybody watch movies? I go to the movies. And so when you go to the movies, you'll see walking past, in the scene, you might see a nightstand, how they had this Fiji water place. I was the person that would place the Fiji water. And if anybody, if you guys probably don't know this, but the number one form of advertising is still television, right? And so if you were to see this Fiji water being advertised on a commercial or in a movie, you would assume that somebody's cool drinking it, and it's in a high-profile movie. And so just having that position in that film or that video gets you paid a lot of money. And so I was a kind of a master at getting in back doors. I guess that was the DC way. You just know how to out-hustle people across the country. And so when I interned, I showed myself worthy enough for them to start paying me. I humbled myself. They ended up paying me the number that I wanted. I went from there, came home. I linked up with Tony, a couple other good guys, probably like 8 or 9 of us. We had this company called the Board Administration, in which we managed, it was partners with Wale, Darren Wale. We also signed Fat Trail, Light Show. We worked with Shock Lizzie. We worked closely with Tony Lewis right up here too on the philanthropy side. Doing turkey drives and just giving back to the community. But that company was put in place because I felt like it was a void in the marketplace. And in terms of being able to usher our artists into this millennial digital music wave, right? And we were pioneers doing that. You know, they don't mention the DC guys a lot. They would say like, you know, Wiz Khalifa or even Soulja Boy was the first on the digital wave, but it was actually Wale. You know, we crashed file sharing companies, a lot of the websites that was distributing music at the time before streaming was relevant. We shut down Life and Times, which was Janeese's website, Karen Civil, you know, all the big names in multimedia. We would shut down their websites. And we were doing this right from a small studio off of New York Avenue. And so, they don't mention us much. But we still have the Wall Street Journal write-ups because if it's not documented, it didn't happen, right? But we got it documented, and Tony was a part of that ride that we had, and it was amazing. We did a lot of amazing things so that you guys can now have an easy pathway in the entertainment industry in terms of if you want to rap, be producers, you know, stylists and things of that nature. But fast forward, I got too big for my britches in the music business. And I started hiring people to count money, and I already knew how to count my own money. And so we got cheated out of like $1.5 million after 5 years of pushing that business forward. Our business manager signed some checks and signed over an entire company over to themselves using electronic signatures. This is before I understood scamming. Didn't really quite know what that was. And we tried to handle it in a non-professional way. And that didn't work out too well for us. I was able to get our name back, but that turned me off in the music business somewhat, and I pivoted. I had to pivot. I fell into depression. I got overweight. I partied every day. I spent a stupid amount of money buying alcohol, buying bottles in the club, just trying to appease my ego. I was hurt. You know, you come from nothing and you raise that kind of money, but you're doing it with your friends, and you get it taken from you, and there's nothing that the courts could do but maybe lock the person up. I wasn't going to get my money back, and so that hurt. I ended up seeing like a spiritual healer in New York. I was making fun of her. I was at a bank, and my partner Trey Walker Johnson, the same sexy lady, he was a former member of UCB, and he's also Wale's music director. He understood things about the soul that I didn't. And so when me and Muhammad would make fun of certain things, he's like, man, you understand everything about your chakras and your third eye, you know, and learn how to control your emotions and things of that nature. So I laughed at her, but this lady, she was reading me spiritually. And she gave me her card and she said, you don't understand who you are. You're part of the 2%. She was like, I've seen you before. No. This is New York City, this lady crazy. I'm about to get out of here. Trey was like, nah, man, you got it. I'm telling you, you don't know. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go see what she's talking about. Now this lady's office was in the Trump Towers at the time. This is before Trump was president, so he was a different Trump to me at that point. But, you know, we were there at the Trump Towers and went to see this lady. And she laid me on the table and she started messing with these rocks and holding my hand and, you know, just talking about me. And she knew things about me and my family that nobody was supposed to know. And she told me that I would experience the worst time of my life. But if I was able to come out of that on the other side, I would be blessed abundantly. She said it was a part of my Saturn return, and I was just like, what is this? You know, she was like, it's this time period that you're gonna go through as a man, and you gotta make some choices. She said, you gotta reach higher. You've been reaching too low, your frequency is low, but you're part of the 2%. She said, I don't tell that to everybody. My clients are worth millions of dollars. I don't even see anybody that's not worth under $1 million, over $1 million. And so I kind of took that with a grain of salt too, because I was pumped up, I was being cocky. At that time, we were the leaders in the music business in terms of millennial music. I don't know if y'all know this, but Wale was at the top of the food chain. Over the Drakes, over the J. Cole's, the Big Sean's, he was at the top. And so we were next in line as the big music family, and we were coming out of a place where was completely unexpected for us to be on top of music at that time, for millennials. And so I was pumped up. We were offered a $10 million deal. So I'm like, this lady can't tell me nothing. We had a triple platinum record on the radio called Bad with Tierra Thomas and Wale. And everything that this lady told me that was going to happen to me happened. I lost my grandmother. My brother was murdered in January of that year. I ended up losing my artist. She ran off and ended up signing with another company. Me and Wale and our company, we split. I mean, it was hell. But the one thing that I understood out of that is that, you know, that life is gonna take you through some bumps. You're gonna hit some roadblocks and things of that nature. But the ultimate thing that I had to understand was to love on myself. Like self-love was everything for me at that time. I fell into a deep, deep, deep depression. Wasn't suicidal, because I'm never doing that. But it was, I went into a deep depression, and that's how I ended up doing the Museum DC. When I was a kid, I used to draw a lot. I stopped drawing because people would turn me off to it. They said, oh, you're a nerd, he draw. I'm really I'm an artist on the low, but I've always had to be the business mind. I'm a designer on the low, but I've always had to be the caretaker, right? And so a lot of my creativity was suppressed because I had to wear that other arm. And this lady told me, tap back into my childhood. She's like, you love sneakers, you know how to draw sneakers, you know how to draw clothes, do that. Thought she was crazy until I fell into depression. And the one thing that helped me out of my depression outside of God and my family, having a great village, was me drawing designs of fashion products. Y'all gotta understand this. I spoke the museum into my life when I was in the 3rd grade. I used to draw sneakers and draw clothes and draw money in my class when I was in the 3rd grade. The same colors that's in my logo was in those same colors when I was drawing the sneakers and everything, and every last one. So I was already destined to be who I was. I had to walk down that path and walk down it confidently. I hit some roadblocks, but at the end of the day, I ended up creating a museum in DC, and now we're a $3 million brand annually. We only open up 3 days out of the week. You know, we have DC United collaboration coming up in another month. We'll be dropping the same day as, I don't know if y'all know anything about soccer, but Messi plays for Miami. We're dropping that same day. We're back with the Commanders all over again. We have another collaboration with them. And we just dropped a sneaker. And you know, life is good. It's getting better and better every day. So thank you for having me. I guess I could pass the mic to Muhammad too.
We want to welcome Muhammad here to the stage, who is also his partner at the museum. Thank you, Greg, for that. Before Muhammad gives his intel, there was a lot of